Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Sitoyo Lopokoiyit, CEO M-PESA. Sitoyo is the CEO of M-PESA Africa, driving mobile money innovation across the continent. Former Chief Financial Services Officer and M-PESA Strategy Head at Safaricom, holds an MSc in Information Technology Management from Lancaster University. He's a leading voice in financial transformation and Africa's digital financial inclusion story. Ladies and gentlemen, with a rousing ovation, make welcome Sitoyo Lopokoiyit.
Keynote speaker today.
Good morning, everyone. It is a great day to be here in Lagos. Let me start by acknowledging the founder of Zenith Bank, Mr. Jim, Group CEO, Dr. Adora, my fellow speakers, regulators, government officials, a lot of ambassadors here, including the Kenyan ambassador, Ambassador Isaac, the fintech community, the Zenith Bank family. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. It's been about 10 years since I was in Nigeria, so it's been a long, long time. I was speaking with my brother, Philip, who was, he lived and worked in Nigeria for about 6 years. He was the Group Area Finance Director for BAT, and he passes his warm regards to Zenith Bank, I think, who are his great partner while he lived here in Lagos. I want to thank the Zenith Bank family for inviting me here. It's great. Last night I was here on this stage. It didn't look as pretty as this. There was a lot of work going on. I was at the back with the fintech community. I engaged with some of them behind there. And for me, these events are about knowledge sharing. They're about learning. They're about, inspiring others. And just walking behind there, I get the same energy that and inspiration that I've had from 18 years of running M-PESA in the continent. But in such an event, it's really important that we talk about Africa. And a lot of speakers have spoken about this just before I came in. And founder, you mentioned that, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, and so on and so forth. I strongly believe that the next 20 years, the biggest companies globally will come from the African continent. It'll be the Flutterwaves, it'll be the M-PESAs, it'll be those kind of companies that will redefine. And it's very simple to know why this is the case. Yeah. First, by 2050, we'll be the largest in terms of population. By 2050, the average age in Africa will be 23. Today, it's 19. If you ask the average age in Japan today, it's well over 60. The population in Japan is declining. The population in China is declining. The population in Europe is declining. The population in Africa is growing, and that shows the talent that is there. Today, 30% of Africa is middle class. Over 1.2 billion people, 30%. That is larger than the entire population of the United States. So you need to be in Africa if you want to grow. And that is why you're seeing the big tech companies, the Googles, the Microsoft, the PayPals are all coming to Africa. The Chinese companies are coming to Africa. This is a continent that will transform the world. And our story is not any different from what the founders did. Zenith Bank is an African story. By Africans, successfully done for Africa, for Nigeria, to inspire us. This is the same story for M-PESA. We started 18 years ago. We are the largest fintech and digital ecosystem in the continent, and I'll speak a little bit about that. But it's important that we tell our African story. Our African story is about purpose, it's about our community, it's about our family, it's about solving African problems with African solutions. And these stories must be told. The reason why, and Group MD, you talked about Flutterwave and GB and those guys are my good friends. The reason why we only get, and the Director General of Communication of Data Protection said Africa has received $2.5 billion. $2.5 billion in this continent for fintech. That's a joke. Africa should be raising $200 billion a year in this space. Yeah? I always say, if M-PESA was registered as an American company, what would be the value of M-PESA? And I'll show you the numbers. I think will be the region of 150 to $200 billion valuation company. There's no company or fintech that's valued that. But it's because we are not telling our story the right way. And we need to stand up and tell our story. My son, went to a private school, but he can tell me a lot more about Europe than about Kenya. Yeah? They tell us about the kings and queens and so on and so forth. But as an African continent, we don't tell our story. We need to tell our story. And this is about, it's not just about technology, but how technology will transform lives. So when it comes to the future, and that's my topic today, of the future of money. And the future of money starts with the customer. Yeah. It's a cliche, we say put the customer at the center of it. But it is really, the thing that changes. Whether you talk about AI, AGI, agentic AI, stable coin, digital banks, all turn to one thing. What does the customer want? What is the customer doing? And I'll give you an example of my son. My son turned 18 this month, but he has been running my digital assets since he was 13. He runs my Binance account. He runs my investment portfolio. I remember I was in Vancouver in February, and Donald Trump had imposed 100% tariffs on China, and the whole stock market crashed. And my son was in school in South Africa, and he called me in the evening and said, "Dad, please buy NVIDIA shares. They've dropped from $142 to $89. And I invested in NVIDIA then. I was with him and his son and his friends over halftime. And when the 15-year-old boy says, "I'm trying to convince my dad to give $10,000 to me to invest in the S&P 500 share index. By the time I'll be 35, it'll be over $800,000. Now, these are 15-year-old African kids thinking like that. The way in which the customer is using money has fundamentally changed. Yeah? And the amazing gentlemen and women in this front row, I'm sorry, the future of how money is being used is by the guys at the back, these young people. And they're telling us, and they are the ones who are managing. I sit with my son and he manages my salary, my son and my daughter. They know more now about the world economy than I do. But where are they getting the information? They search online, they're on TikTok, they're on all these things. The knowledge of where they're getting this is online, and it's fast. It's in a click, they're just flicking. And they're spending 5 to 6 hours in these social media platforms. So the way in which a customer is accessing information has changed. The way where they're purchasing has changed. So they won't go to your app. They want to make purchases where they are. So if they're in TikTok, they're going to make that purchase there. If they see something, they're going to make that purchase instantly. So the way in which the customer is changing is fundamental, and it's anchoring what I'm going to speak a little bit about the trends. So I'll just put all the 4 trends that we see. So I'll speak a little bit about digital banking and what we're seeing in it. Agentic commerce from a payment perspective is really, really critical. Digital currencies, we just heard how much money Nigeria are spending on both stablecoin and cryptocurrencies. And then one thing I've loved about African regulators, today they are the forefront of enabling innovation. It's not, we've always looked at regulators and saying they're stifling innovation. I've had a regulator here speak today. A lot about what African regulators are doing is enabling the fintech community to excel. Do not fear the regulators. They're our partners, they're our brothers, they're our sisters. Let's work with them. And for them, their work is to just ensure there's no systemic risk in what we are trying to do as innovation and fintech community. You all know these two banks, Revolut, Nubank. Revolut from Europe, Nubank from South America. Very innovative institutions, very niche in what they're trying to do. They started with open banking regulations, but what is happening now is it's beginning to change. They're beginning to buy banking licenses. If you look at Revolut, it's buying banking license everywhere. They have just entered South Africa, and they're looking at expanding. The second thing, there's a blurring of the telecommunication sector and banking. Those two and others have bought telecommunication licenses. If you look at Nubank, they have bought they're an MVNO in South America. Revolut, the same thing. And the reason why they're doing this is the customer again. The customer, when they're moving with their app, don't want to know about roaming charges. They don't want to know about data issues. They want to operate their app globally and communicate without any challenges. And because they're a digital fast institution, this is beginning to be an important trend. The third bit is crypto exchanges. They're beginning to allow cryptocurrencies to move within their own ecosystem. Just a few days ago, Revolut announced zero transaction fees when you're changing from fiat to stablecoin. And the reason for that is they want to attract more customers in it. Revolut and Nubank were restricted to operating in the zones that they are, either in Europe or in South America. With regulations coming on stablecoin, Nubank can operate in Nigeria. Revolut can operate anywhere, and you'll see these institutions expand aggressively across the world. This is the same thing you'll see with Stripe. You'll see the same thing with PayPal as they continue going forward. Now, just before I play that video, I want to speak a little bit about agentic AI and agentic commerce. A year ago, ChatGPT was really non-existent. It has about 100 million users. How many people use ChatGPT here? Yeah, it's all like everybody. No, they moved from 100 million to 1 billion people using ChatGPT almost on a weekly basis. Then you've got Grok, you've got all these things that are coming in. AI is fundamentally going to change payments. I was having a debate with my team and saying, will the M-PESA app exist in 2 years? Because today, I can say I'm coming to Lagos. On ChatGPT, it'll tell me which hotel, where to stay, how much. I give it the credentials, and it books for me my ticket. I don't need to use Google. I can't remember the last time I went to Google search engine. You know, Google has been disrupted. Whoever thought Google would be disrupted as a search engine? Things have changed with regard to agentic commerce. And with agentic commerce means the way in which I shop will fundamentally change. I'm giving my agent the ability to do things that I would do. I would say I want a ticket for an NFL game, and that's it. The agent will search, it'll know, it'll book the train times, it'll do everything. I will not have to put my 15-digit bank card, CVV, all those things are gone. Yeah. Today, if I'm in Amazon, and from an Amazon website, I can buy Zara. Amazon does not stock Zara. But because of agentic AI, the agent of Amazon is actually going to check on the agent of Zara and actually bring it and package it to me. So the ubiquity of what's going to happen from a commerce standpoint is fundamental. So let's just watch what Visa are trying to do with agentic commerce. Can I just volume? Is there volume? can check on that volume. If not, I'll just move on. But you can, what you are saying on this video is just the ability for the agent to do everything that you want to. You want a ticket, you want to buy something, you want to dress, and at that particular time, it will go and search for that dress globally, and whenever it finds it, even if it's a month later, pick it, select it, ship it back to you. So these are the partners that are really driving agentic commerce. So Zenith Bank agent today can communicate with a PayPal agent, with a Visa agent, with a MasterCard agent, with an M-PESA agent. So if I want to send money from Zenith Bank to M-PESA Kenya, I just want to chat with you, say I want to send money to an M-PESA agent, this is it, and it does everything else. You do not need to put your PIN number, you do not need to put mobile number, because it knows your identity. If you look at what PayPal World are doing, as soon as you're connected to PayPal World, if I go as an M-PESA customer to Spotify, it'll automatically show checkout as M-PESA. Yeah? And it'll know my mobile number, and it'll know my PIN. All I have to say is click accept the payment. This is because the M-PESA agent is speaking to the PayPal agent, is speaking to Spotify. And that whole chain fundamentally changes what's happening with the agentic commerce. The future of apps, as I said, is at risk. The future of where the customer access is changing. So I will not go to a Zenith Bank website in future to make my purchases, but I will still be using Zenith Bank. Wherever I will be, that's where my bank will be. Wherever I will be, that's where, wherever the customer will be, that's where the payment. So payments will become subliminal. You will not see the payment interface because the agent will be doing that on your behalf. Crypto, the third sort of trend that we are seeing. Globally, 800 million people. Now it's, I think, over 1 billion people using it. In the continent, 60 million people. Now it's about 100 million people using it. The statistic came out that Nigeria is number 1 in Africa and I think 3rd in the world. With regard to stablecoin, out of the top 10 countries globally, 6 are in Africa, 5 are M-PESA markets. So you can know the one that is not the M-PESA market is Nigeria. But the amount of money moving between Nigeria and especially Kenya is phenomenal. Yes, Nigeria contributes 1/3 of the amount of money, which was said 50 billion. Kenya is very closely followed with regard to stablecoin into it. And why we're seeing this in terms of, and stablecoins are a fundamental part of what's going to happen. And the reason for stablecoin is, one, Mr. Donald Trump. So with the Genius Act, this fundamentally changed stablecoin globally and what is going to happen. And us as a continent, we need to be very, very careful. Yeah, our currencies, you know, the currency exchange rates are volatile at times. The access to dollar is difficult. And our young people don't want traceability. Those 3 factors are a big component of why Nigeria, why Africa is at the forefront of stablecoin. And this means that we must be careful, and regulators, fintechs, banks, us, we have to know where we're going to play in this space of stablecoin. Because the one thing that Genius Act wants to do is to dollarize the world. And in Africa, it's easy to dollarize our economies. But if we dollarize our economies, where are the taxes coming from? Where is the growth coming from? This goes to the big players. USDC, USDT, the Circle, the Tethers, which are private companies. Today, Tether and such companies generate over $3.2 billion per quarter in revenue from the interest earned from the deposits. So it's easy for funds to leave Africa, to become dollarized, to move this investment that we have built outside the continent. So we need to be careful where we are playing. Are we an off-ramp, on-ramp? Are we a liquidity provider? Are we an issue of stablecoin? And I must thank Nigeria, the laws and the regulations around stablecoin, the laws and regulations around digital currencies and so on and so forth, you are the forefront of it in Africa, and we are watching and we're learning what's happening. But we need to be very, very careful. And if I give you an example today, in M-PESA, there's $500 million worth of crypto and stablecoin moving on a monthly basis on P2P in one country, Kenya. So if we dollarize that, it just means this $500 million exits our Kenyan economy. And those are the things that we need to be careful about. But as I said, we need to build solutions for Africa that work for Africa. And this money needs to stay in Africa. Let me repeat that. This money needs to stay in Africa. And this money needs to stay in the reserve banks. We need to find ways in which the off-ramping goes in locally and the money sits in the continent in it. We are seeing, but there's one thing that we have an advantage as Africa. We are the only ones who can provide utility. So when you look at the big companies like Tether, Circle, the one thing that they're trying to do is enable payments via stablecoin to a supermarket, to a restaurant, to be able to pay taxes, to be able to do things. This slide shows you exactly where they're going. They want to be payments, they want to be business payments, customer payments, lending, retail payments, and so on and so forth. But this is the core of Zenith Bank. This is the core of M-PESA. So we need to protect the way in which off-ramping, on-ramping happens on our ecosystem. We need to play a bigger role in this space so that we don't get disintermediated by what stablecoin offers. But it's not a threat. It's just that there are huge opportunities around it, but we need to be very, very smart on how this will go on. PayPal is an interesting company. They have transitioned, and this is one we need to watch, because they have transitioned from using their rails, from being a consumer to being a payments gateway. So you're seeing PayPal, Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, Swift. So a few months ago, I thought Swift will not exist, given that there's B2B payments. So the purpose of moving money from one business to another business using stablecoin bypasses the Swift system. But a month ago, Swift said, no, we're allowing B2B payments, P2P payments on Swift. So using the same rails, they're innovating around it. Stripe is doing the same thing. PayPal is doing the same thing. Visa is doing the same thing. MasterCard is doing the same thing. M-PESA is doing the same thing. Because we want to use the existing tools that we have to ensure we are playing a bigger role in how payments moves in the future. And it's a fact that stablecoin is there. It's a fact that cryptocurrencies will be there. But it's a fact that we need to think on how Africa benefits from this in a bigger way. The thing about stablecoin and AI, I'm just going to dial back a little bit on AI. The algorithms, and this is the people at the back, build algorithms to solve African problems, to remember African stories. Please don't leave the Silicon Valley guys to determine the algorithms. Because today, and I strongly believe, and I say this many times before, if we are not careful about AI will do worse in Africa than what colonialism ever did. Because it is individual and it's affecting our young people to the person. Colonialism was bringing countries together and dominating them. This is dominating the mind and dominating the thought process. So the guys at the back, the fintech community, let's build algorithms to solve African problems for African solutions for the prosperity of the African continent. Regulators, thank you for doing much. We're seeing a lot about regulations coming on. We're seeing from PAPs to national switches. It's fantastic because that enables interoperability. I can connect to Zenith Bank. I can connect to our customers and businesses across the continent. That's fantastic, and we applaud you on that. We're seeing a lot more regulations coming on board. Kenya, just the other day, passed the Virtual Assets Bill that regulations from the central bank will govern how stablecoin and cryptocurrencies will be used in the country. And we're seeing that happening across the globe and across the continent. So it's great to see regulators really moving into this space. And what it does, it has enabled businesses to play in more specific verticals. We're seeing what Flutterwave is doing. We're seeing what MoneyPoint is doing. We're seeing what agent banking is doing. We're seeing what's happening in financial services. But what you're going to see is verticalization. We're moving from, M-PESA was great at launching products and services. We were never good at building a business. We're good at introducing a lending solution. So we lend today $18 billion of lending to our customers, but we don't have a lending business. I cannot do more to help working capital business with working capital. Yeah? We are great at creating payments, but I'm not a payments company. So I cannot build what Flutterwave is doing. I cannot build what MoneyPoint is doing. We have the largest agent network in this continent, but I'm not an agent company. So we are also changing how we play. We are enabling different players to play on our ecosystem so that they can provide those kind of services and solutions to our customers. So it's great to see what's happening in the continent. We are open and we're willing to support the business. I just want to talk a little bit about M-PESA. I think to what I started with is an African story, built for Africans. And we're a purpose-led company, and we put purpose, people, and profits last. Up to today, I've never looked at a business case for an M-PESA product. Never. If it's going to impact the community, the outcomes are the right outcomes, we do it. The numbers come after. And I always tell my team, I can never look at M-PESA revenues. It's an outcome that happens, and I leave it to my finance people and the investor relations people to go and talk about it, because those are historical. But what we want to measure is the impact to the continent, the impact to our customers. And that's the most important part of who we are. But all those trends that I mentioned, from agentic AI, stablecoin, all of this, are fundamentally changing where M-PESA will be. What M-PESA 3.0 will be is very different. What we were planning to do in our FY30 strategy, we need to do it by FY28. What I'm planning to do in 12 months, I need to do in 3 months. It's fundamentally shifted the way which we operate, and we're having a conversation with some of the speakers at the back. And what's going to happen in the next 2 years on AI will be more fundamental than 40 years of technology. Just imagine that, 2 years and 40 years of technology. So the way in which the world is changing, the way in which the fintech community is changing is something that as M-PESA we're beginning to look at it. We have to change differently. But then we also have to look at new opportunities that are coming in. So as M-PESA, we operate what we call a two-sided ecosystem. We build for customer, we build for businesses. We have over 68 million customers. We have over 5 million businesses that run on M-PESA. When you look at what we do and how we work from large corporates, government, SMEs, and micro SMEs, we move in Kenya, over 75% of the GDP of the country runs on M-PESA. In most of our markets, it's over 40% of the GDP of the country that runs on M-PESA. So we become what we call a systemic risk to our country at times. But that means we have to do much more better to ensure our systems are stable, secure, and scalable as an institution. And for those tech guys, we operate on what is called 5 nines, that is 99.999. In terms of uptime, that is 6 minutes of downtime in a year. That's all we have, 6 minutes. So we're operating with the same resilience and redundancy that Visa and MasterCard operate globally, but we are an African company. So it is possible to do what these big tech companies do in the continent. We move from a statistical standpoint, we move $476 billion on a yearly basis. So it's about $1.4 to $1.5 billion a day. We move over 220 million transactions. If you want to compare it with PayPal, we do about 5 times the transactions of PayPal. But I wish I had the market cap of PayPal. So this comes back to our African story. We're a company that will probably do $2 billion in revenue. Our EBITDA is very, very high. I cannot say it. We give loans of 18 billion. But this company, if you Google it, we're not even considered a fintech in the continent. That says something about the African continent and our story. And it's really, really great what Zenith Bank is doing and what Group MD you guys are doing. It's telling the African story, ensuring that it is there. Because institutions like ourselves and yourselves, today from a market cap valuation, is very different. If this was, if this was an American company, this would be some serious $150, $250 billion company. And yet we operate on only six markets, very successful. CAGR of over 20% year-on-year growth, and we will continue to grow on that. And the reason why we continue to grow, because of the fintech guys behind. We have opened our APIs. We've opened a lot of our APIs, and today, majority of the growth coming on M-PESA is not from my team. It's from the people at the back, the fintech community, building products and services for their customer. So this ecosystem is growing because we are opening it up. And we are ensuring that the young people have a place to develop their product and services, to create employment, to help SMEs, to help micro SMEs to grow. I want to just take a pause and move to a different topic. But because of the way we see the African continent, we need to do a lot more to change it. We are very good when it comes to elections, yeah? African countries, yeah? Elections are very interesting times in the continent. I don't know how many of you have ever read the manifesto of a political party. Who has read the manifesto of the government of Nigeria today, the political party? Or of Kenya, or of Tanzania, or of... Guys, if you want to make money, you need to read those manifestos. And I'm not saying it as a political statement. The government writes one of the best papers. They are very good at what they do in writing the papers. Execution can be questionable. But when you see what the government wants to do with agriculture, education, and so on and so forth, gives opportunities for tech companies, for banks to do more. So if you look at what we're doing in Kenya, the whole universal healthcare system is being run by us. From digitizing 18,000 government hospitals, digitizing the claims platform, digitizing healthcare records, all that with zero cost to the government. Why do it? Because we know what the transaction fees will come into it. So we enter into a relationship with government where we provide them with the technology, and over a period of time we make our money through the transaction fees. We've done that for agriculture. We've spent in education over $200 million. We're spending over $20 million in the agriculture sector in it. So we are looking at digital public infrastructure in a very different way. Governments don't have the money to do what they need to do. But we as private sector can come in and solve that problem and make an impact, but also make money. And this is where we worked with banks to fund us, because we've got the technology. And I'll just give you an example of agriculture today in Kenya. And what you will see is that today 6 million farmers are impacted, from people who grow coffee, tea, maize, and so on and so forth. Today, over 40% reduction in importation of agricultural products in Kenya has happened. Food. This dollar is stable in the country because of the balance of import and export. $288 million has been paid through farmers for subsidized fertilizer through the M-PESA platform. Maize production has grown up almost 40%. That's a staple food in Kenya. Inflation in Kenya is below 4% because of such kind of programs. So the impact of what happens, but yet it's a technology-led product with zero cost to government, with maximum impact to the community, and we actually make money out of it. So just want to play a video. Hopefully this time it'll play on our purpose. Hopefully the volume comes in. Do you have the volume? So it's unfortunate, but I'm sure we can be able to share this into it. But what it does, these are the results of what we're currently doing in it. From the 2003 to 2024, farmers, we had 1.2 million farmers. Today, it's 6.9 million farmers on the platform. From 1.4 million bags of fertilizer moved to 21 million. As I said, just this year was $288 million, so it's over $430 million of value that has gone into it. And you can see the statistics around agriculture. We've fundamentally changed agriculture. Young people are going back to agriculture. It is profitable. The government is subsidizing production, which is great. But this gives opportunities for fintech companies to come and say, where's the market? How can you create a marketplace for the output that's there? How can you do lending? How can we hedge on coffee prices? So there's so much that can happen with this kind of data that has been created. As M-PESA, our work was just to put the platform. The work for the fintech community is to innovate on top of our platform and provide relevant products and services, whether it's insure tech, other agri-tech products, and so on and so forth in it. I want to conclude by just saying those 4 trends is what we see: customer changing, agentic commerce, digital currencies, regulators, and competition on how it's changing. Those trends are what we see will fundamentally change this continent going forward. But the ability for this continent to become the #1 in terms of producing fintech talent, unicorns, is immense. And I really hope, to what your group MDs spoke about, we want the flutter waves and so on to be, $5, $10, $15 billion valuations in the continent. So I wish you well. I thank you, Zenith Bank, for all this you've done for us. We are here to support you guys and be proud of the continent that we are in, because this is the future of the world. Thank you very much.